But again, Jaylen Brown right here at this tech conference, he gets into a nice bag about what these sports leagues are really all about.
Today, I'm going to be talking about breaking panopticism, also algorithmic social engineering. If I control the technology, I can dictate the market. I'll explain what that means. Michel Foucault, a French philosopher in 1975, in their work Discipline and Punish, talked about panopticism. She based it off of a prison design, right? It was a prison design with a watchtower in the middle of the prison. And this theory was that, like, by putting the watchtower in the middle, the prisoners would police themselves because they're under surveillance. So physical authority has shifted to psychological authority, right? And over time, their behaviors change, and this causes a term she calls dynamic normalization. So in the digital age, the watchtower has transferred. So through technology, through bots, fake viral clips, fake accounts, you can police platforms and algorithmically influence society with the technology that you can control. The technology that you can control can dictate the market. We see it across various industries all the time. A lot of people have seen some of my quarrels with the media industry. That's kind of the reason why I started streaming. You know, some of you have seen my stream and going off on Stephen A. Smith. But exactly, but Stephen A. works for ESPN. ESPN is controlled by Disney. Stephen A. doesn't choose the topics. Somebody chooses them for him. You know, his willingness has made him extremely valuable to these companies. But you know, a lot of these companies and corporations, they meet 4 times a year and talk about amongst various industries how they can socially engineer and influence our minds, right, through the technology that they can control without us really even paying attention and even noticing it. Just like the Michel Foucault theory, where I was talking about the watchtower that is policing the prisoners, bots, comments, positive comments or negative comments could affirm whatever agendas that they want to push. They can create the bots, they can control kind of the approvals or disapprovals of what is in society. Another example is kind of like group thinking. If I control a bunch of platforms, or I control a bunch of accounts, or have a bunch of partners that are all in cahoots with me, I can also socially engineer conversations, start trends, kind of create a herd mentality where you think it's natural, but it's all algorithmically engineered to dictate the market. And then the last one I would say is like the digital dopamine. A lot of us are addicted to social media, we don't even know it, right? The rewarding feeling of getting likes, the rewarding feeling of getting impressions can cause addiction. And the opposite of that can cause the opposite, anxiety and depression. This is all reinforcing the overarching Michel Foucault's theory, the watchtower. And the philosophy is that physical authority has shifted to psychological authority. I was doing media after Celtics practice, and a writer came up to me and was asking me questions about politics and sports. And I just thought, like, I'll just share my thoughts, the things that I learned at Berkeley. And I ended up telling him that sports is used as a mechanism for control. So that's exactly what he titled the article. Jaylen Brown says sports is used as a mechanism for control. I gained some support, but mostly I got a lot of backlash. The front office, Danny Ainge at the time, called me into his office and was like, how could you say this? You're saying sports is used as a mechanism for control, but you just benefited from sports and changed your family generationally. And he's right. And I told him sports can be used to do great things, bring people together, change people's lives, inspire people, motivate, but it also can be used as the opposite. So I told Danny, like, it could be used as a way to distract people from what's really going on in society. There's panopticons, watchtowers, that exist within sports as well, where like media training is like a way of programming athletes to think, act, and behave the same. Nothing controversial, nothing political, nothing unsafe.
And let me say this. Here's another check and balance that the NBA had flexed in case of an emergency. This pertains to what Jaylen Brown just mentioned. Remember during the bubble when the players were willing to walk out and protest, and then a quick call was made Next thing you know, the players were speaking with Obama during a pandemic where most people were even scared to travel. But yet the NBA was able to make an emergency phone call because they had to protect their money, and Obama quickly was in a face-to-face meeting with the players. These sports leagues have always been very political. Obama was called in to basically sway the players to keep playing and work out some other agreement when it came to the whole taking a stance. The NBA understood what kind of sway Obama had on the players in this exact situation.
And the people that I admire the most were the exact opposite of that. Muhammad Ali, Bill Russell, Jim Brown, they all use their platforms for something beyond sports. So while I'm here, while I got my platform, those who are listening and those who may be listening in the future back home, I just want to encourage people to be not afraid to be who you are, be proud of where you come from, and to think critically and think for yourself. When I was in high school, I had to make a big decision. I was the #1 player in the country. People would think that's an easy decision to make. It's actually one of the hardest I've ever had to make. Like, as an 18-year-old, you can go to any school in the world that you want to based upon your talent and your ability. How do you narrow it down, right? So, typically most human beings would see like, okay, players like me or people like me, let's see what other people like me, decisions they made. So that's what I kind of did. A lot of the players that were like me went to Kentucky or Kansas or North Carolina. That was the typical algorithm within a top 5 player, top 5 prospect in the world. So I made a decision that at 18 that if I was going to use my platform, I was going to be in control. So instead I went to UC Berkeley and explored my educational career versus going to what the algorithm would have preferred me to do.
So as Jaylen Brown alluded to, a lot of the campaigns being ran by bots to make people think a certain narrative is what the masses are thinking. We're seeing the same campaign be ran on him when it comes to his relationship with the Boston Celtics this offseason. He's coming off of one of the greatest seasons he's ever had, averaging 28 points per game, almost 7 rebounds and 5 assists. And it's amazing the level of rumors that has his name attached to it, when we really never seen if Jayson Tatum is going to be the same guy that he was pre-injury. Knowing how Jaylen Brown was treated when he first arrived in Boston, not being as valued, we're now going to hear him explain how they were also trying to control his voice.
It's like it's a bigger game going on, and obviously I love to play the game of basketball, and I've talked about this before. Sports is a mechanism, could be viewed as a mechanism for control. And I remember the first time I said that, I was 20 years old. I had just gotten to the league. I was in Boston, and I'm thinking I'm talking to like a normal beat writer. Happened to be like this big writer for The Guardian. And it was like, this dude put me on the cover of The Guardian newspaper saying, Jaylen Brown says sports is a mechanism for control. That's when I was 19 years old. And then that went viral. And then that's when I got invited to Harvard to go speak about it. So Harvard invited me based on that article in The Guardian to come speak about it. That's why I became the youngest Harvard lecturer, because I was talking about how sports is a mechanism for control, because that became controversial. Like, how could this 19-year-old player say sports is a mechanism for control when sports the NBA just helped them recreate generational wealth? He just changed his whole family's life through sport. How could he criticize it, right? So I got a lot of pushback, even from my organization. Danny Ainge came and talked to me, like, what is this? Of course, you're 19 years old, you just got drafted, your family, how can you say that sports is a mechanism for control? They didn't understand, but there was understanding that needed to be had. And I spoke to that at 19, and I still speak to it to this day. Sports is so political. It is like everything that we can talk about so many different times that I could bring up just through my career. And I can even talk about what's going on right now. The statements that are being made, it's political as fuck. So I think that's the biggest misconception. I think a lot of people still who watch, they think like, oh, it's just sports, it's just entertainment. Let me turn my brain off. No, but you being programmed to think a certain way through the sports, through the marketing, through the statements, through what the players is pushing. what we co-signing, what the league is co-signing, what they marketing on it, all of that stuff is a part of it. It's propaganda.
AKA, it sounds like he's talking about the gambling. 90% of that sounds like he's talking about the gambling. But again, we're now seeing how the relationship was when he first initially got there, not feeling valued. They're trying to control his voice. They're questioning him on what he's telling the media. A lot of these sports leagues are major real estate for just cultural influence. That's the reason in recent years we've seen a major push for a lot of the political personalities to kind of merge themselves in the sports world. It's because they get that understanding. They're trying to attach themselves to that cultural real estate to influence people to believe in their political candidates or just whatever philosophies they go by.